The corporate press is the enemy of the people. You've heard that uttered by many other folks, and it's true because effectively, no matter how much the mainstream guys like to think of themselves as journalists and shit with integrity or anything, no, they're not that. They're basically state-backed media, and they do the bidding more so specifically about the authoritarian left. That's who they back. I'm about to read you something, and considering this person's name that wrote it with CBS News, Iron Anova is her name, and I'm gonna read you the caption first before I go through the article. This is what the caption says: the U.S. economy has been hit with increased gas prices, inflation, and supply chain issues due to the Ukraine crisis. So that's the angle that they're going with this, that the issues pertaining to the inflationary issues are happening because of fucking what's going on with this Ukrainian-Russian conflict. Like, that's the route that they're fucking going. They're about to blame this shit on that. Looking at the article itself, let's see how they explain themselves. Although many Americans may prefer that the U.S. stay out of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, the brewing violence and political fallout are already hurting their wallets. Gasoline prices have hit 8-year highs, could surge even further if the hostilities escalate or the U.S. lawmakers pass another round of sanctions. So the sanctions, despite this happening before that conflict became a thing, the sanctions are what's really doing us in terms of the inflation, not the Fed, not the Treasury or anything like that, or these moronic sort of policies centered around definitely the ones that have been implemented the last sort of 20 fucking years. You pump in fucking, 40% of the goddamn money supply it get printed in the last fucking like 2 years. Like, yeah, that may have something to do with some of the issues, but apparently no, it's Ukraine. The economic impact could also move beyond the gas pump. Wall Street analysts warn sanctions or export controls against Russia could make current semiconductor shortages even worse, while restrictions on wheat or metals could drive the fiercest bout of inflation in decades to climb even higher. Shock waves across America. Since Russia is a major exporter of crude oil, accounting for about 12% of the world's supply. Any disruption to those exports is likely to drive prices at the pump higher. It's crazy because you have all of these like nonsensical laws, especially these environmental based laws. A lot of them are federal, which even though America has more than enough of their own motherfucking oil, they have these laws and shit against not even talking about the pipeline issues, more so like the drilling and shit, and the laws against that prevent people from using their own fucking oil. Hell, it's to the point. Remember with any other energy for that matter. You remember when we had this issue, was it last year, with this whole winter storm that we had out here in Texas, and the fucking governor has to ask the federal government if they could use their own fucking energy. And you have all of that sort of stuff happening, right? Because of, my environment and my climate, you don't want to be using certain portions of energy because, that, right? So that's what they're blaming all of that on, is like, okay, Russia has all this oil that they export, and that's why your gas prices are fucking high. And again, simultaneously, you have people advocating, like positions of power, advocating that the U.S. move away from using its own fucking oil. A key factor is how hard the conflict hits the economy will be how Russia responds to the U.S. sanctions. Crackhead, what is it, CBS? It's already hit the economy. We've been talking about this definitely over the course of the last year, and the economic ramifications of, and it's compiled. I'm not ridding Trump of any fucking thing. It's a compiled effort, right? It's not just, I know there's some people out there that want to just pin it all on this administration. I think that's fucking naive, and that's not how fucking money works. Last administration had had his hand in this role as well, in addition to Biden and his fucking moronic policies. But here's my thing, is that they're trying to talk up this Ukraine shit because they want to absolve, particularly because their guys in office now, they want to absolve their facilitation or them facilitating this shit that we have right now in regards to our economy. And they're about to try to blame this shit on the conflict happening on the other side of the fucking world. This is amazing. And they're doing it real time. We're watching them doing it real time. It's basically ignore all of what happened before this conflict became heightened in the way that it is. Ignore all of that shit. Why your goods cost more right now? It's because of fucking Ukraine. What the fuck? Russia could retaliate by halting oil and natural gas exports, and that would then put pressure on gasoline and natural gas prices in the U.S., which has already spiked this year. So you just acknowledged it. It already spiked. So how on earth could you, out one side of your mouth, say, well, we're feeling the economic ramifications because of inflation and all that, and then at the same time, buried in the fucking article, say, well, they already spiked. Okay, so it wasn't because of the fucking conflict. So they're blaming it on oil, essentially going through this article, and because Russia exports all this fucking oil, they're saying that more inflation. So rising prices for commodities will leave U.S. consumers paying more for fuel and other necessities, leaving less money for discretionary spending. As costly as another European war would be in human economic terms, its economic burden in the United States will fall hardest on the middle class and working class. No shit. While prices spiked during the coronavirus pandemic, consumers were able to weather the shock thanks to enhanced unemployment. They're essentially, I'm done. These guys, like I say, they're the enemy of people. One of the most dangerous things that they did from an economic standpoint was put the fucking economy on pause and treat it like it was a light switch, and then pump all this goddamn money into it that was essentially coming out of fucking thin air. And now they're trying to word it as if, well, it's because of the money being printed out of thin air that they were able to withstand. No, it's because of all of that shit that you got the economy that you have right now. This is why I'm certainly not going to rid Trump of it, because when it came to those stimulus packages, he signed off on every one of them motherfuckers. Even though I was sitting here screaming and others as well, like, no, like the answer had always been to allow people to get back to fucking work, not, I don't know, put the economy on pause, pump a bunch of fucking money into it, and then hand the shit out. So you sell assets of fucking unborn people in the process. You got the economy that you got because of your reckless spending efforts, because of your reckless printing efforts as well. That's why you got the economy that you got. It's not because I really hope it's not people that watch my show that are stupid enough to really believe this shit. That it's because of the Ukraine conflict that your goods cost as much as there's no way that you guys, there are people that are watching my show that believe that. I just can't believe that shit. There's no way. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on YouTube.com/YoungRipper59 and Odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, EricDJuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.